Hello, hello, hello. Hey, fam, who is on live with me? Welcome, welcome. I'm going to give everyone a few moments to join live now that I've activated it. Hopefully you've all got the link and you can join this. So I'm going to give you some time now to come in and join. Say hi so I know who is here when you join. I would love that. Please say hi. There might be a little bit of a delay as well. So if there is a delay, I'm sorry if you're saying hi right now, but I'm going to do the best that I can. If I'm looking at my phone throughout this as well, it means that I'm trying to be able to access your questions and what you're saying a little bit easier as well. So bear with me with the delay. Gotta love technology, right? But sometimes there is these things that happen. But if you are on live now, come in and say hi and tell me where you're coming in from. I'd love to know who's joining me and where you are in the world. So I'm going to give everyone a few moments to do that now. Today it's morning for me. I'm in Sydney, Australia. It's going into, we've had an amazing summer. Yeah, summer. And it's only just now starting to turn and get cold, which is crazy because it's like meant to be autumn. It's meant to be cold, but it hasn't been. So that's been super awesome. But yeah, let me know where you guys are calling in from. And I'm going to see if I can see anyone. Right. Where did we go? There you go. Okay. Awesome, guys. So what we're going to do, thank you for everyone that's joining me. What we're going to do now is I'm going to roll into 10 things that I learned from the Fasting Summit. So why are we doing this? Because I understand that what we've just been through in this last week, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey. But one of my favorite things as well is being able to connect with the speakers that are the experts and incredible humans doing great things in the world. And I understand as well that going from interview to interview and listening to each speaker, it can be quite overwhelming, right? Because one person says one thing and then someone says something else. And then, and I'm there with you. I'm there with you guys because so much of the health space and the fasting space and what we do seems to contradict and it seems to have different messages, and you just really, we go back to this, is pull out what rings true to you. But what we do is create a community of like-minded people, and hopefully you're on the journey with us so that you can understand what is probably the best thing that you can do for you right now. Now, we've been on this journey for a while, and so what I'm going to share today is the things that I really feel to be important when it comes to fasting and being on this journey, and what you can do to really excel in your health right now and make it and strip it back to basics and just make it simple instead of overwhelming, yeah? And so if you're there with me, let me know. But I'm going to take you through 10 things from the Fasting Summit that I've learned that I deem to be important, that I think that can ultimately change lives, that can ultimately transform your life because it's done so with me. And so I want to go straight into it today so that we don't keep you up all night or we don't keep you up all morning. So if you're there with me, then let me know. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you as well to get into this, and hopefully you can see it all good. All right, can someone let me know that they can see my screen? Hopefully you can see the screen. Yes? And you can't see me anymore. I'm gathering. All right, perfect. So 10 lessons learned from the Fasting Summit. Let's go straight into this. The first one we're looking at today is finding your why. Now, if you remember back to the Fasting Summit, hopefully you remembered Dr. Demartini, and he mentions, if you have something meaningful to accomplish in the world, you will want to eat well. Don't live to eat, eat to live. Dr. Demartini. Now, I love this because what he talks about is when you find your why, your purpose to fasting, then it's like that emotional trigger point, right? And I can really relate to this because I remember going back into my years of being in the health and fitness industry and constantly wanting to be healthy, right? Constantly wanting to be on a health kick or lose weight or look better or feel better. But because it was based on something external and it was never really an emotional attachment, I just wanted, to fit better in clothes or look better on the beach, right? And so I would start a 6-week program or challenge and I would never finish it, or I would never really commit to it, because you could dangle like cheat day in front of me, or you could, let's go and eat this instead. And it would be, yep, okay, done. And I cave and I fail, and then it's doing worse off than good, because then I've deemed that I failed in this program. And what was missing is the why behind why I was doing it. So when it came to this time in my life where everything had turned upside down, and I woke up one day and I was sick of feeling bloated, I was sick of feeling no energy, I was sick of having no creation and spark in life, and I got to that point where it was like, that's it, something needs to change. And I was so emotionally dialed in and so emotionally triggered that when I started to this fasting journey, and when I started to fast, it didn't matter what anyone else was doing around me or what you tempted me with or what was happening, because I was so emotionally triggered by my own story, by my own why as to why I wanted to make a change. And so he says, what is your why, your purpose for fasting? Have a purpose, have a why as to why you're doing it. When you have something purposeful or meaningful that you want to accomplish, you become a lot more disciplined. If you're repressing yourself, you're going to eventually yo-yo. So if this isn't something true to you, if this is something that you're doing because somebody else told you to do it, if this isn't something that's coming from your own truth, then there's a high chance that you're going to revert straight back to where you were before, that you're not going to stick to changes, stick to a habit. Now, they say it takes about 28 days to build a habit. And so if you can begin to change your lifestyle connected to a really strong reason why, whether that's your kids, that you want to be healthier for your family. I speak to so many like beautiful parents that their why is, do you know what? I feel really unfit and I feel really unhealthy. And if I continue going down this road, then there's a high chance I'm not going to be there for my kids as they get older. I want to be able to bounce out of bed with them. I want to be able to chase them in the park. I want to be able to take them to their sports. And if that's something that you can resonate with, then perhaps that's a strong enough reason why that you need to make a change today, that you need to do something different. So what is your why? And I want you to think about that now. Think about if we were all here right now about to begin a fast today, what would be your reason as to why you're doing that? And Neil Martin talks about this throughout the fasting summit. It's like, write it down, and write it down until you get tears in your eyes. Find the emotional trigger that's going to actually get you to move, get you to do something. Because there's probably been times in our lives as well where we've actually made a massive change in our lives or made a massive shift and committed to something. And if you think back to what really drove you, then it's something probably really close to your heart. So ask yourself right now, what is my reason why I need to make a change right now? Or what is my purpose for fasting? Good. And then when you find that, I want you to take a deep breath in with me. And I think that's a really beautiful way to bring us into this chat today as well, getting attached to why we're here, what drove you to the fasting summit in the first place. Because I guarantee that that would be some emotional trigger that's within you, whether you realize it or not. Why are you giving up your time right now to be with me right now on live? Like, there's an emotional trigger behind the purpose for that. Whether you want to learn and educate yourself on fasting, you want to learn a bit more, that's great. But there's an underlying purpose as to what's drove you here. So get connected with that, because I promise you that's the golden nugget that you need to be able to really transform your life for the better. All right, number 2, listen to the body. So we do talk about this, and I understand that it can be quite overwhelming because we also don't know how to listen to our body. And so there's someone, Dr. Michael Greger in Fasting Summit #2. I said, like there's lots of information. Do you agree that we would just be listening to our body? And he's like, no, I wouldn't agree. And I was like, oh, no one's ever said this to me before. What do you mean you wouldn't agree? And he's like, I wouldn't agree because right now in a lot of people's life and worlds, listening to their body means having that Mars bar or having that extra bit of sticky date pudding or having, all these meals a day. And I was like, right. That actually rings true, because right now when we're listening to our body, if we haven't cleansed and we haven't detoxed our body of all the toxins and we're not in the right environment and we're not inundating ourselves with the right information, then we don't actually know how to listen to our bodies and what it's actually telling us. And so what I do suggest first is that we all join this community that we're doing now. We join the Fasting Summit where it's giving us the information that we need to make healthier choices. We start to inundate ourselves in the right programs and surround ourselves with the right people that are giving us this information to be able to change and shift our lifestyle. And then once we're on this health journey, we start to listen, we start to heighten that intuition within us, and we start to really know what our body is telling us. And Diane Parnham's talk, and I know a lot of you guys related to her, I know a lot of you women out there loved her as well, and she mentions when you put your body in an opportunity to do what it's designed to do and get out of the way, the results and benefits are endless. And essentially that's what we're saying. We're saying our body knows wisdom of knowing exactly what it needs to do. But we're so caught up in our heads, we're so inundated with all of this information that we don't know how to listen to that. So what we can do with fasting is when we bring intermittent fasting into this, is that essentially we're getting out of our own way to allow it to do what it needs to do. And so even if you change nothing in your lifestyle except for skipping breakfast and allowing the fasting period to change, and that's a really great way to start. Because as we start to do this on a body chemistry level, on a subconscious level, we begin to start to notice what it's doing, begin to give our body more space to be able to do what it needs to do. And in turn, we start to notice signs and symptoms. So what else she mentions is our body chemistry is always changing. Our body is talking to us through signs and symptoms, but we're taught to cover up the symptoms. We need to learn how to adjust our nutrition and the lifestyle in which we are eating to the signs and symptoms in order to heal ourselves. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree that in life right now, we're so we get sick and we can't be sick because we've got stuff to do, right? So we want to suppress that, whether that's medication or whether that's a pill or whether that's let's quickly find a juice that can help this flu and let's do this and do that and do this. But we're wanting to suppress it because we don't want it to come out. But when we're suppressing it, we're just covering up the symptom. And if you think of a beach ball, I don't know if any of you have played with a beach ball and you've tried to put it underwater, but if you're constantly pushing this beach ball underwater, at some point or another, it's going to explode up in the air. And if you're pushing it down further and further, then the explosion is going to be even more massive. So if you get this metaphor that I'm getting at, is the more that you suppress, the more that you cover up, the more that it's building an explosion within you. And that explosion could look like cancer. It could look like some sort of disease or illness formatting in your body. It could look like skin diseases, skin issues. It needs to come out. What I'm saying is it needs to come out in your body somehow. And if we're not doing the right things to allow it on a daily basis with detox strategies or fasting or instead of covering up symptoms, just allowing it to do what it needs to do and helping that process, whether that's through nutrition, whether that's through a cleansing protocol, or whether it's through fasting, to allow it to go in the process of autophagy where it starts to eat all up the damaged cells or start to use the damaged proteins and excess proteins that we don't need. If we don't start to do that, then the explosion is going to occur. And I don't know about you, but I would much prefer to help heal myself instead of cover up and allow the explosion to happen. So if you're there with me, let me know firstly, so I know who's with me. But also, let's start to understand that fasting is a vehicle in which it allows ourselves the space to begin to listen to the signs, listen to the symptoms, listen to what the body is constantly telling us. And so that's what we mean by listening to our body. And sometimes it is great to have someone there that's on your path, that's on your journey, that you resonate with, that's sharing a message of, sometimes we need some advice and some direction. And, hopefully that's what the summit's given you. Hopefully that's what I can give you here, and we can do it together. Because as you have someone there that's helping you on that journey, then it's a much easier process to begin to go, do you know what? This feels really good to me. And this is allowing me to feel better about myself, to feel healthier. And so now, as I'm in that headspace, I can begin to start to notice, actually, that feels really good on my body. Actually, no, that doesn't. And these things start to become clearer, as opposed to being in a stressful state, a stressful point in your life, in your body, in your health. Then it's also harder to listen to your body in that state, right? So Diane Parham shares a really beautiful message on this, on intermittent fasting, on women and intermittent fasting, and how we can get out of our own way. So I hope that you can resonate with that. And as we talk about intermittent fasting, another vehicle of this is time-restricted eating. So there's so many health benefits when it comes to time-restricted eating. And a lot of the speakers did touch on this. I personally loved Emily Minogian's talk. Now, she was the one that talked about the circadian rhythms as well. And if you loved her talk, like I did, let me know. But basically, time-restricted eating can help with weight loss, energy levels, endurance, sleep quality, digestive health, decrease in inflammation, blood sugar, acid reflux, and more. Like, hello, why wouldn't we do this? So basically, when you look, they're studying this at the moment. They've been studying it in rats. They've been studying it in flies even. They've been studying it in yeast. They're studying it now in people. They've got, and like I mentioned in the interview, if you go back into the interview and watch that, she actually gives you the option to participate in a human study. So if you're interested in doing that, you're just basically tracking every time that you eat. You can be a part of the human study, but they're experimenting it now, and everything that they're finding in their research is these health benefits. And so time-restricted eating is basically where you restrict yourself to an eating time frame of whether that's 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever that looks like for you, then it's going to be giving you more increased health benefits. And they did an experiment with this on rats that I liked. And the experiment was in one group of rats. They were both groups. They had two groups. Both groups were eating a high-fat diet. But in one group of rats, they were basically just eating around the clock whenever they wanted to, whatever they needed. But in the other group, they were fed the same diet, but within an 8 to 12 hour eating period. And they remained perfectly healthy, didn't gain weight or disease, opposed to the mice that were eating around the clock, that gained weight, got illnesses, got diseased, and died earlier. So if they're doing this and although, we don't always like a lot of animal studies, but the thing is, there's not enough humans participating in studies for long periods of time for them to be able to study it. So I got really excited when I was speaking to her that they were doing a human study, because I think that's amazing. But at the same time, why don't you be your own human study? I talk about this all the time. The best exploration, the best science experiment, the best research that you can do to understand and to gain insight and to know what's true is to do it on yourself, to explore within yourself. Because I know that every time I'm looking for an answer, every time I'm wanting to know more, the more that I embody it and the more that I can do it, then I have instant upgrade. I have instant insight, and I go, do you know what? That works for me. That works really well. It was the same when I first started intermittent fasting. It was on my, I just finished a 7-day extended juice fast and organically went into intermittent fasting because it felt really good to me. Within a 3-month period of eating, it was 90% following the 16/8 method, which is fasting for 16 hours, eating within an 8-hour window. And within that, and mostly raw based food, within that time, I lost I got really lean, so I lost weight, but I was very unattached to this. I wasn't trying to do this, so I didn't really measure. But there's a photo that I've got, and I was like, you can really significantly notice how much leaner I got. My energy levels were through the roof. And like, this is something really strange for me, because when you think about when you're waking up in the morning, I always thought I had to eat to be able to have energy, to be able to not get dizzy, to, actually function. I thought I needed to eat straight away. And so that's what I was doing. When I stopped this, the amount of energy that I had at that time of the morning was insane to me. To be able to walk in the morning, and I was doing Pilates at the time, I was doing hardly any exercise, and all of these results still happened. And I was having more clarity and more focus in that time before I ate. I also regulated my hormones. So I was having really irregular periods as a woman. And during this time as well, I managed to regulate my periods, make them super, super healthy and pain-free, and really healthy menstrual cycle. And it was like clockwork. I knew exactly when it was going to come up. I was having amazing sleeps, and I just felt so good. And that's within the 16-hour window that there's been a bit of confusion about. Is that good or isn't it? Because there was a bit of confliction with a few of our speakers. Then I would say, well, try it on yourself, because for me it was amazing. It really worked. So try it on yourself. Okay, so increased health benefits with time-restricted eating. All of these health benefits come from this. And I just wanted to tap on the circadian rhythms as well, because really, to find your eating window, I mean, it's up to you as well. Whether you are like me and you're a night owl and you would prefer to skip breakfast and make your eating window later, between 12 and 8 p.m. or, ideally for me, it's like between 11 a.m. and 6 or 7 p.m. Sometimes it shifts, sometimes it changes, but that's the benefit of time-restricted eating, right? You just pick your window and you go with that. But at the moment, what I've been exploring is allowing myself to go with the flow of my circadian rhythm. So my circadian rhythm is a night owl, and that just means that, well, if I was to not set an alarm, what time of the morning would I get up? Is it super early, or is it a little bit later? And although I'd love for it to be super early, my natural clock is around 7:30, 8 a.m. That's when I can naturally wake up full of energy, ready to get up without that oh my God, I need to snooze my alarm business. So if you're that person and you kind of get quite motivated at nighttime, I get quite creative really late at night when I'm supposed to be sleeping, which is frustrating because I try and force myself to be an early bird. Then for the next month, I'm just allowing myself to be in my natural state, in my natural circadian rhythm, because I want to see for myself and explore to see if that helps with my energy levels, if that helps with weight loss, if that helps with health benefits, and to see what it does to me. So I invite you to figure out if you're an early bird or if you're a night owl. And if you know, comment in the section so I can see what you guys are, and tell us so we can all join together and share. And perhaps you want to play around with your circadian rhythm. If you're someone who is wanting to, no, I need to be an early bird, that just has to happen, then start to play around with shifting that. Emily talks about shifting it is possible if it's a few hours difference, not if you're drastically a night owl and you want to shift to an early bird, but you can start to move in different directions. So you can start to increase the natural light in your room. If you're wanting to become an early bird, you can go to bed earlier, which means you would eat earlier in the daytime. So there is those little tips that you can do to start to shift and move in that direction. After this month, when I've explored, I'll probably start to do that again because I really love waking up early. But I just wanted to be in my natural circadian rhythm and see what that does. So I invite you to do that as well. I think that is super helpful. I'm super interested in all the research that's going into the circadian rhythm, and I'm all about the natural cycles and supporting that of our body. So time-restricted eating goes directly in line with our circadian rhythms, and I think that can be really powerful, ongoing for increased health benefits. All right, next one, gut health. Yes, how amazing is Dr. Osborne and Dr. Will Cole on the Fasting Summit as they go into detail on gut health. Gut health right now is insane. The amount of people that have so much going on in their gut, and rightly so, because they talk about gut health being the most optimal, our second brain. So it's not just about health, it's actually affecting us in so many different ways. Now, Dr. Osborne has a great metaphor in the Fasting Summit, if you remember back, and he talks about how the gut is constantly on overdrive. It's working overtime. So if you were to go to work and you worked your 8 hours and then all of a sudden you're ready to go home and the boss says, nope, you got to stay for another 8 hours. You're like, okay, yep. And you're working and you're working and you're working and you're not getting a break and you're not going home. And then all of a sudden you think you're about to go home and they ask you to work more overtime. It's like, you're going to drop. You're going to drop and everything's going to break and you're going to hit rock bottom and melt down and who knows what's going to happen. That's exactly the same as what's going on in our gut. It's constantly on overdrive. When we're eating, we're taking up to 70% of our energy going towards digesting that food. And then we just put more in. And then we wake up and we put more in. And we're never giving our gut a chance to actually have a break and have a rest and rebuild and reset and realign. And so intermittent fasting is an amazing way to improve your gut health. It helps to rebuild your gut lining cells, balance bacteria and the microbiome, reduces inflammation, and gives it space to repair itself. And Dr. Will Cole goes into more detail on this. And so if we're having all of these issues, I speak to so many people all the time that have so many gut issues and they're constantly doing, prebiotic and probiotic and kombucha and all of these different fermented foods, and then that's not working. So then they're cutting out certain foods, and then they're doing this and eating this, and it's literally like this never-ending cycle of what to do. Well, what happens if you just have a rest? What happens if you just stop putting something in it for 24 hours or for 16 hours a day? What would that do? What happens if the boss said, go home and have a weekend? Like, what would that do for you? You reset, right? You reset, you have a sleep, you feel better. You do something that you love that makes you feel joy. It's the same as what we're doing to our bodies. If we can give it a rest, and especially our gut, then look at all the things that it starts to do. It starts to rebuild, it starts to rebalance, it starts to reduce inflammation, and it gives it time to repair. And so a lot of our issues are stemming from gut health, then I think that this is one of the most overlooked things. And I think this is one of the most important things that I've pulled out of the summit. It's like, wow, like, let's just give it a break. Because when we can do that, then we automatically get the results. We don't have to wait 6 months before our kombucha starts to kick in, and for people who don't know what kombucha is, it's a fermented tea drink. That's kind of the hype in the health world at the moment. And don't get me wrong, I love it from time to time. It's a great treat. But sometimes we don't need to be putting something in to heal. We just need to refrain from doing that and let our body do what it needs to do. So gut health is ridiculously important when it comes to our health and comes to getting well. And they talk about this, that it stems into so many different parts of what we might be suffering from. And so if you can look after your gut and if you can heal that, then it's going to start to heal different parts of ourselves, different illnesses. So remember that if you can find a good intermittent fasting protocol that works for you, whether that's once a week for 24 hours, you give your body a complete reset, whether that's, every day you're doing the 16-hour fast, or whether you're doing the 16-hour fast 3 days a week, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's you like the 12-hour window, then do that and just do it for a long enough period of time that you can start to see some results. You can start to feel the difference, and then stay sensitive to how you're feeling. If it doesn't feel good for you, then stop. Cool. Gut health, love it. Next one is weight loss. So many of you amazing people that have joined us for the Fasting Summit, that have joined us in our fasting community group. And if you've got this email for this right now and you haven't been in the fasting community group on Facebook, I highly suggest that after this masterclass, you go and join the community, because I love everybody that's in the community sharing such powerful tools, sharing your stories and your knowledge and your experience that really inspires people around you, whether you know it or not. And I think having a like-minded group that can be supportive in your journey is so helpful when it comes to change, and when it comes to something that might be foreign, like fasting, and that might be, you know, still a taboo subject in a lot of places. So don't forget to come in and join the fasting community group. If you don't know where that is, then let us know in the comment box and we'll send you the link to join, because it's a really powerful group and we want to continue to build that community. And having said that, why I bring that up is because a lot of people that have joined in on the community want to benefit from losing weight. Like weight loss is a major issue right now for a lot of people. And fasting and specifically intermittent fasting is an incredible tool to begin to do that. Now, I love, and you probably loved Dr. Michael Vander Sheldon's talk as well, as he goes into the science of intermittent fasting. Although science isn't my strong point, I love learning about what the science is doing for the fasting on a different level. And he talks about, if we are always eating, we are raising insulin levels. Insulin is a storage hormone, which is encouraging our body to store fat. And so if you're constantly eating and snacking, and this is something that I've really had to train myself, and sometimes it's also my weak point, is that, you know, if I'm bored or if something's going on, I love to snack. But the thing is, whether that's grapes, which is my downfall, or whether that's a handful of nuts as you walk past the kitchen bench, or, you know, whatever it is, every time you reach for a snack or you put something into your mouth and you eat it, it raises insulin levels. So we're storing fat every time we do that. We're also aging every time we do that. Now, Dr. Pompa also talks about this, and he's number one tip all the time. I'm like, give us one tip. He's like, stop snacking. And so if we look at what intermittent fasting can do right now, is if you're someone who's typically been eating breakfast and then having morning tea and then having lunch and then having perhaps afternoon tea and then perhaps having dinner and then perhaps having dessert, that's a lot of eating. That's a lot of insulin levels getting raised, right? And so intermittent fasting straight away is going to reduce that window of time, and you're going to reduce the amount of times your insulin levels has been raised. As well as that, you've reduced your eating window, which means your fasting window is going to be longer, which means when you go into fasting, you're going to start to move from burning the sugars to burning fat. Win-win. So intermittent fasting, periods of not eating, helps to reduce insulin levels. Therefore, we're spending less time, it's supposed to be time, less time storing fat and more time burning it. And as I mentioned earlier in my journey when I first started, I unconsciously and unintentionally shifted weight and got quite lean. There's been so many case studies around, you know, you can look at any of these speakers and who they've worked with, even on themselves, that have done intermittent fasting and had drastic results with weight loss. Typically with extended fasting, I don't like to go into an extended fast with the goal of weight loss. I think that, you know, depending on what your body needs, perhaps after a fast, you might put weight back on, you might yo-yo, all of these different things happen. So an extended fast, although depending on your situation, is a lot about healing. And so being attached to a weight loss goal, you know, might not be the best thing. But when it comes to intermittent fasting, if some people ask me all the time, what's your best fasting protocol for losing weight? Intermittent fasting is your best friend, because of this exact reason. And Dr. Vander Sheldon goes into the science behind why this is so. Dr. Jason Fong, goes into the science of why this is so, of why intermittent fasting is such a powerful tool for you to lose weight. So if you're joining us on this journey right now and you're here with me and your goal is weight loss, then what are you going to do about that? What kind of window are you going to start with? What kind of intermittent fasting are you going to bring in? And of course, you can't intermittent fast your way out of a bad diet. So diet comes into it as well, and lifestyle. And we can share more of that after. But right now, the fasting summit is about fasting. And so how can you look at what you're doing in your day to bring that in? I hope this rings true for a lot of people. And if you have any questions at all, drop them in the box as well. Next one is variation. Now, Tony Bataji also touched on intermittent fasting for weight loss and the clients that he works with and the results that they get. But he also talks about how variety is key. When you find yourself plateauing, your metabolism may be squashed, so you need to return back to energy balance. Now, this is what I really needed to hear this from him, and I don't know if anyone also needed to, but I loved this because right now, and I'm happy to share, and I did actually share in the interview, I believe, with my journey. So being fasting for years now, I kind of thought I was in this mentality of like, if I just do this same thing that I've got results from for the rest of my life, then I'm going to be sweet. You know, I'm really lean. I'm really happy with that. Results are great. I'm feeling super healthy. I'm energized. Sweet. I'm just going to continue to do this for the rest of my life. That's not the case, right? Because you wouldn't join a gym tomorrow and then go and do 4 kilo dumbbell, 4 kilo weights for the next 10 years. Like you wouldn't get any results. It would just be pointless. You're just like kind of moving. So what he talks about is if you find yourself plateauing, which I know a lot of people can relate to me when I say that, because you've told me, when you find yourself plateauing, then perhaps it's not about doing what we think we need to do, which is intermittent fasting or, skipping breakfast. Perhaps he talks about going back into doing the opposite thing that you've been doing so that you can bring your metabolism back into balance. So you can regulate everything. Once you've done that, then go back into what you want to do with the caloric restriction or with the time restricted feeding or what you were doing. The lower your metabolic rate, the more it takes to stay in energy balance. So this is what I've been experiencing. I'm like, Tony, I don't understand. Like I'm doing intermittent fasting and I feel like I'm storing fat. I feel like I'm putting weight on. I feel like my results are doing the opposite of what I want them to do. And, as well as that can be a number of hormonal things, like it could be your thyroid's out, it could be, all different types of hormonal things depending on who you are and your history and what's going on. Then, although it can be that, what you can do to help restore hormones as well and your metabolism is do the opposite of what you've been doing. So he said to me, Sam, for the next 2 weeks, I want you to eat 3 square meals a day. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I did that for 2 weeks. And although I didn't feel great whilst I was doing it, like it took a lot of effort to need to eat so much. I did that. And now I'm in the next phase, which is, I think for the last 2 weeks, I've been going back into, 2 weeks. For the last 2 weeks, I've been doing intermittent fasting again. And it feels so much easier on my body. It feels so much better. And it's interesting because if I was to listen to my body prior to him telling me what to do, he mentioned that my body was basically telling me, because I remember saying, I feel so hungry all the time at like 10 a.m. and that's not like me. And I'm like so hungry even at 9 a.m. I was like, wow, I'm really, really hungry, but I was choosing to ignore that. Now, after I did that for 2 weeks, now as I'm intermittent fasting, I can go until like 2 p.m. and I'm like, I haven't even eaten. I'm not even hungry yet. And so it's interesting how it's almost like I almost feel, without checking in with anyone, without looking at any test results, without doing anything, is that it is actually back into balance because I feel completely different. It feels so much easier on my body. It feels completely natural. And so if you're feeling that you're not in your natural state after doing it for a while, you're plateauing, you're getting really hungry, you're finding that you're wanting to do something different, then do it. Variety is key. Variation is key. And Dr. Pompa talks about this as well so well, is that often that golden place, that point of change, it happens in the change. And so shifting. Dr. Pompa doesn't believe there's one fast, there's one diet that fits for all the time. That's like the thing to live by. He believes in variation. And although I stick to a plant-based diet and I also enjoy shifting up the times in which I'm eating, then I truly believe that, like going to the gym, you wouldn't do the same workout every single time. And so why would we do that with the times in which we eat and what we're doing and and as we're going through seasonal changes and stuff as well. So variety is key. And I think that's a really good point to bring out from this summit, is that sometimes we can put our blinkers on and not be open to what people are saying because we think that we need to do one thing for the rest of our lives because it's worked. So if it's not working for you, if you're plateauing, then try that one. So, oh yeah, down the bottom it says 2 weeks deficit and 2 weeks of caloric restriction. He talks about that's been studied to be a good solution for this. Yeah, so I mean, and he also studied. He's got an amazing kind of setup in Sydney, Australia, where I am, and I've been and been into his gym, and chatted to him, and I've watched him train people, and they do this. Like, he's worked with someone who was on a water fast and was training with him 3 times a week. Now, although I wouldn't recommend doing that on a water fast, extended water fast, it just shows that they're exploring and they're studying and they're working with people to be able to see what works. And so they're doing this live. They're embodying it. Embody it. So variation, key. The next one is get to know yourself. Now, Andrea Page, you know that I'm a massive fan of this stuff, right? And I just want to read this out because this is what she says. If you want to get to know yourself, stop putting everyone else inside of you. That includes the chemical input of food, even healthy food. It's not just about cleansing, it's about the process that goes along with it and where it guides you. Now, this is an most underlooked, not talked about, different side of fasting that I didn't want to not put in here today. Because if I am talking about the 10 lessons that I've learnt in the fasting summit, then what I've learned is that it's not just about losing weight and reducing inflammation and getting out of our body's way. It's about actually what happens when you do that, what happens in that process that goes along with that. Where does it guide you? And truth be told is when there's any sort of abstinence, when we're abstaining from anything, whether it's food, whether it's people, whether it's technology, then that allows us to go deeper inside of ourselves. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. But do you know what? That's the beauty of fasting. And that's my true passion around fasting, is that it transformed my life because it led me deeper to who I am today. And so if you really want to get to know yourself, if you want to be able to trust that intuition and that guidance, then fasting is an incredible, powerful vehicle to allow you to go to that place. So it's not just about the cleansing side of things. Fasting is a spiritual practice. And so for people who are here because they're on this journey to get to know themselves, then don't overlook fasting. It is a really powerful tool to get you there. And I wanted to bring that up because I think it is really powerful. And for people who are here because they're like, I just want to be healthier and lose weight and all that kind of thing, then do you know what? Without a healthy mindset, without healthy self-talk, without looking at what your psychology is doing every single day, then you're not there yet, and you're holding yourself back from being better, from being healthier, from being your version 2.0. And it's not woo-woo at all. As much as sometimes I can go a bit woo-woo on everyone, it's not. It's the reality. And everyone talks about mindset. Everyone talks about how can we think of ourselves and talk to ourselves better. Well, do you know what? When you refrain from food and you don't suppress emotions and you allow them to release, then you're going to feel lighter and you're going to feel better. It's the same as if you were going to eat a chocolate bar, but at the same time as you're sitting there really hating yourself for eating this chocolate bar and really getting down on yourself, then what's the point of eating the chocolate bar? It's just going to do that exact toxic thing to your body. But if you were like in a state of joy and really were just like really wanted this chocolate bar and it was going to be great and you're just going to love it anyway, then eat the chocolate bar with love and that's fine. But it's all about what is going on in your mindset. Get to know yourself. What do you believe in? What is happening? And then when you abstain from that, then holy moly, the spiritual journey that it can take you on to lead you to who you are is amazing. I'm not going to continue to repeat myself, but I just wanted to say this is a really great way to get to know yourself. And then, of course, preventative care. So I put a poll up in the fasting community on Facebook, and I was like, who is part of healthcare and who's part of preventative care? Because I know what side I want to be on. And don't wait until you are sick to change. Take care of yourself daily. Preventative care. Build your immune system through juicing daily so that you don't get sick. Johnny the Juicer. Who loved Johnny the Juicer and no other vegan dog? So this is powerful because sometimes we are waiting until we get sick. We're waiting until we are, we've got a flu and then we're going to, okay, maybe we should look at juices, or we wait until something happens, until we make a change. And I want you to nod. I can't see you right now, but I want you to nod if you're like, yeah, I hear you. I've done that. I mean, I've done that. We sometimes we wait until what? Like, what are we waiting for? We constantly we constantly wait until we want to move jobs or move cities or end a relationship or start something new or create a new habit. We wait until something, but we don't. What is that? What happens if you don't wait until you're too sick? Why don't you take daily action now so that you don't actually get sick, to build your immune system? And so I love that Johnny touches on this because I also think it's super important. And it's so beneficial in so many ways. And so what can you do today to be able to feel better tomorrow? I like to look at that too, because you don't necessarily have to change your whole life in a day. You just have to do something. So whether that's like Mitch, for example, he loves having activated charcoal in the morning as a morning drink because that's a really powerful detox tool. And so instead of waiting until he's sick to detox something out, he'll have activated charcoal in the morning, every morning, because he's in preventative care. So what can you do today to be in a preventative care mindset? Because right now, if you look at mainstream health, it's all about healthcare system. It's all about when you're sick, then let's find a pill to be able to suppress that. There's nothing about juices that you can flood yourself with on a daily basis to get all the nutrients so that you build your immune system. There's nothing about that. There's, it's like, what can you do? So preventative care is where it's at. And Johnny the Juicer mentions that and picks that up. And I hope that you took a note of that and were like, do you know what? I'm all about preventative care. And that's what you need to keep in your mind every single day. And this is the last one. My last tip, my last 10 tip for you is relax. Aliki talks about this and she touches on this, and I just had to put it in because she says, if you cheat, it's okay. Move on. You're only human. And this was a powerful message because we're really hard on ourselves. I get it. I'm there with you. We're really hard on ourselves, especially when you become more health conscious and you're on this journey. You can start to get overwhelming and you can start to get a little too conscious because you know so well what you want to do and what you're not doing. And so we can be really hard on ourselves. But the fact of the matter is, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. In fact, the more I speak to the doctors and the experts and all these incredible people around the world, they're only human as well, They're not perfect. They're just doing the best that they can, and they're sharing this knowledge. I'm so passionate about sharing this knowledge and this ripple effect and helping someone. If I can help one person in this world, then oh my God, that inspires me so much to get up and continue and keep going. But do you know what? I'm not perfect. And sometimes I have a hard time realizing this myself. I'm like, who do I think I am sharing this message? Like, I've got a breakout on my chin right now. Like, I'm not perfect. I've got cellulite on the back of my legs. Like, oh, who do I think I am doing this? And I have to remind myself, like, you're only human, Sam. And that's what I remind you today. You're only human. You're doing the best that you can. And you know what? The fact that you're here with me right now, and if you're still stayed on and you're stayed here and you're learning these lessons, means a lot. That you're upgrading and that you're taking care of your health and you're doing something about it. We probably all know someone in our lives that is constantly wanting to do something, be better, be healthier, but then what do? Nothing. They don't do anything about it. You might not be perfect, but at least you're trying. And I always think about random things, but recently I've been thinking about what is my definition of success to me, like whether that's in health or in life, and what does that look like? And to me, the definition of success is a willingness to try. Because if you have a willingness to try, then that's all you really need to be better. How can you be 1% better than you are right now? And so don't be so hard on yourself. If you're on a 3-day water fast, and sorry, if you're on a 5-day water fast and you get to day 3 and then you cave and you really want to eat, so many people are so hard on themselves because they didn't get to day 5. But do you know what you just did? You just did 3 days on water. That's mind-blowing. People think you would die. A lot of people can't even fathom a few hours without food, let alone 3 days. So in those times where we're really hating or being down on ourselves or having negative self-talk, I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to think about and turn it into a positive. Be grateful for whatever you've just achieved. Often because we have such high ambitions and we want to achieve so much, we forget about the things that we were actually doing right, that we've actually just done to support our body. There's so many times that I set out for a 24-hour fast and I get 16 hours in and I eat. And I'm like, oh, perhaps I wasn't meant to do a 24-hour fast today. But you know what? I just did 16 hours and my body would love me for that. So if you are eating on a juice fast and that fat, you don't set out to do what you wanted to do, or something happens and you didn't achieve what it was that you thought, don't be so hard on yourself. Take a deep breath, move on, and remember the pendulum swing. It's that each time you continue on this journey, the pendulum swing is just going to increase that little bit further. You might go a little bit back, but you know more information than you did before. So it's not going to be as bad. And I hope that makes sense for a lot of people, because we just need to learn to relax. Relax, don't do it where you want to go. All right, that was my last point. So what are you going to do to take action? What action are you going to take? Because as I've mentioned before, I love pulling out action steps from speakers, because I really believe that without action, then what's the point of listening to the summit? What's the point of allowing yourself to be inundated with all this information if you're not going to do anything with it? That's pointless. And the other point is, it doesn't matter what you think when is the right time, because really it's never the right time. You're never going to be 100% ready, and it's never going to be just the right time. But what's the point? It means that every moment is also the right moment. If you want it, you just have to do it. So what action are you going to take? There is so many incredible speakers on the Fasting Summit that give you actionable steps that you can take to change your life right now. Are you going to be someone who sits on the fence, who dabbles in this information, who just listens and moves on to the next summit, moves on to the next bit of information from someone else out there? Or are you going to commit to what they've told you and actually take action and change your life? Because I mentioned before, if I can help one person, if I can inspire one person in this world to take action, that they message me and they go, oh my gosh, because of you, I started drinking a green juice every morning and I've absolutely changed my life in so many different ways, then that seriously inspires me so much. And I don't just want one person to do that. I want a whole world of people to begin to do that, because imagine then the health, the longevity, the happiness, the joy that we would have in ourselves, in our families, in our world. So I invite you right now to ask yourself, what action are you going to take? What do you need? Do you need to look over all of the summit speakers to find the one that resonates? Because I'll tell you right now, the action that you're going to take right now is going to change your life. And then in a month's time, you're going to want to upgrade. So you're going to want to take another action. And so for those of you who have got the premium pass of the Fasting Summit, and you can access these whenever you like, what an advantage that is, to be able to focus on one right now for the next 30 days, create that habit, make that change, find that result. And then in the next 30 days, rewatch the summit, interviews that really resonate, and find the next action step that's going to upgrade you. How powerful is that? How powerful is it that you're able to have all this information and access to this information to be able to feel better than you're feeling in this moment? Amazing, right? And so what action are you going to take? I would love for everybody to be a part of our premium pass, and I'm going to show you now what that looks like. So if you haven't already seen the premium pass, you can actually just go online like this now. You would have seen it on like the speaker page, and it tells you what's in the pass. Oh, there's me. Hello. But it will tell you, if you scroll all the way down, you can see all of the people that you'll hear from, and it tells you what's involved. But because you're here with me right now, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight as to what's actually inside it. So when you log in, you actually are going to have the main event. So you're going to see all of our speakers. You're going to have access to summits 1 and 2. You're like inundated. This is like Netflix, but for fasting. Like if you wanted to take action and you wanted to really understand fasting in so many ways, then this is where you go. You have all the speakers there. You have their speaker bonuses. So this is like what they've given you in order to step it up. You have MP3 downloads as well. So whether you're like on the commute to work, whether you're on a walk, like a really powerful way to start your day is educating your mind, getting your brain functioning, getting your mindset in the right place, and being able to just put an MP3 on your phone of me and Joe. That's powerful, right? You can listen to that whenever you like. And you also have access to the action guides. So if you're someone like me who's going to take action on circadian rhythms, then you have Emily Minogian on MP3 to motivate you, to remind you what you need to do. You also have Emily Minogian's action guideline, which I actually have taken out the main points of her talk, and I've given you action steps of what you need to do. So it's all written out for you. You have those. And then you also have access to all of the other speakers to be able to go to. Now, if you wanted to go to, if you thought this summit was heavily based on intermittent fasting and you want more, then go back to fasting 1 and 2. And they have an array of incredible speakers that will talk more in depth on dry fasting, on water fasting, on spiritual fasting, on juice fasting, like loads of different ones. And so this is like, I tell you, this is like fasting Netflix. You don't have time to chill. This is like action, changing lives type of material. So I want to give you guys all the opportunity now to, I'm going to see if I can come back on the screen because I want to, yeah, there you are. Hello, I'm back. I want to give everyone the opportunity now to be able to, if you haven't already got the premium pass, to go on and get the premium pass so you can just have Netflix in action all the time, fasting Netflix in action all the time. And basically I'm saying this is because we don't have long left of the pass being open to you, and I don't want you to miss out. Hashtag FOMO. It is right now, it's $99 in US, and it's available until 11:59 p.m. EST time tomorrow. And so, I mean, basically, if you jump on now and get it, then it's yours, and you can go back and you can find your action step. I want to know what you guys are taking action on. So comment in the box and let me know what speaker has resonated. If any of my lessons today resonated with you, what one? What you pulled out, like just let me know that people are there and taking action. I would seriously love to know that. I know there is a little bit of a delay, so I'll give you that. But right now, all you need to do to take action is to basically, if you haven't already, get amongst the premium pass. It's like such a low cost for a life-changing program in my eyes. Like, I mean, if you got so much out of the summit already, then that's my gift, and I'm so grateful. And make sure you're part of the community so you can continue on this journey. I understand that not the pass isn't right for everyone, and that's cool. But for such an inundation of knowledge and access to such incredible people that are doing incredible work around the world, and is such an inspiration. Like even someone, like me, who is actually speaking to these people on a regular basis, like I often watch and rewatch and come back and learn something new. So I love it. So I'm going to write back to all of your comments. So please send me comments, send me questions. I can't see any coming through at the moment, and I'm hoping that everyone's still there with me and can hear me. But send me some comments and questions. I'm going to write back to them personally. Send me your action step and come on this journey with the Premium Pass and join in and let's create change together. Thank you so much for all of your participation today. I hope that the 10 lessons that you've learned have been somewhat helpful to your journey. Thank you for joining me on the fasting journey. It's been an incredible week with you guys. I'm so overwhelmed with the amount of love and joy and action that people are already taking. Good luck on your journey. Come and join me in the fasting group. And I look forward to hearing what you thought of today, your action step, and your action in taking the Premium Pass. Lots of love. Have a beautiful night for those. I've kept it to an hour. I'm so proud of myself. And I'll speak to all of you very soon. Lots of love.